Okay, in this video I will show you some arguments about the case Gonzalez and others Cottonfield versus Mexico case. This is a complicated case in my point of view, and so very long case. And well, in my case I didn't have no knowledge about that, but when I investigated all the case, it was so, for me, what's so surprised about that case. And I will show you a little bit about the background of the case. This case, it was in Ciudad Juarez, and this is a place that in that time it was a lot of crime. Okay. Laura Berenice Ramos was a 17-year-old student, and she disappeared on September 22, 2001. And days later, Claudia Yvette Gonzalez, she has 20 years old. She worked in a company. She disappeared October 10, 2001. And then another girl, it was Esmeralda Herrera Monreal. He was a domestic employee. She has 15 years old and disappeared on October 29, 2001. And the most curious thing is when these three women disappeared, then they were founded on November 6th, and founded the three corpses, obviously dead, in the same place. And Mexico doesn't have the sufficient, not like opportunities, but don't have the sufficient arguments or the sufficient arguments to work in that and resolve the case. The family of the victims has this case to the court, Inter-American Commission of Human Rights, because they are considering that they are violating human rights in not just only the human rights for these three women, now in the resolution for the case. And then we see a little about this case. Then I will present some allegations that they just publicize guilty or something like that in that case. For example, the first is the violation of human rights. This could be so guilty for Mexican state, but not only Mexican state, for the person who committed this type of crime. I consider that this type of crime, they could be obviously have this penalty, or this completely fall in that. But also the Mexican state has a little bit guilty about that, because they are violating some human rights in the resolution of the case. And one of these is in Mexican human rights, it's like obviously the person have the same rights, but in that time the rights of domestic employees, they don't have so good rights, or some of that they have bad threats for her bosses or her bosses in. And I don't know who is the context about that woman, but they was so normal to bad threat to this. And it was one of the articles that they are violating. Then Mexican state obviously hasn't prevent measures with security and rights for the women, and I agree that responsibility is part of the state. Like Ciudad Juarez doesn't have established authorities, has knowledge about that case, and the responsible authorities didn't anything to prevention measure or about the risk that human has in Ciudad Juarez. Maybe this can be a little be difficult to explain, but in my allegation is that Mexico hasn't the security or the human rights. I mean, obviously, how I said, this part of guilty is about Mexican state, and one of these part of responsibility or guilty is because the authorities has knowledge about this kind of situation that happen in the state, and the authorities has the obligation to prevent or to prevent these kind of things happen. And obviously, if they are if you are seeing that something is wrong, or they have so much violence cases in that region, or you have report about that cases, you need to do something for they can prevent and not just have these things happen, like kill 3 women. And obviously they have some responsibilities because the aggressor doesn't have name, because the authorities didn't find the name of aggressor and didn't make anything to the justice happen. The next is Mexico didn't demonstrate reasonable measures about the circumstances the case to find the victims. And I mean, Mexico doesn't have so much resources to invest, and to invest for the case, and to find about what it's happened with the victims, or more invest money to find these girls, to find the resolution for that case. And it could be part of responsibility, how to say it. And another argument, it's about the location of the victims. The state has more be quick about the searching or complaint for the victims in the first hours, and the Mexican state, they must be improved politics in that case of missing. It's a complicated topic because I was so looking, or I don't know in who I listen about that, but I listen about in what case about boy, I don't know exactly, but there was a people missing, and they said the first 72 hours it's crucial to looking or to search the victim, no matter what it's a kid or it's an adult. It's the most important hours, because in that time, if the in that 72 hours, the person who subtract the kid or the person maybe have this time to have more things that happen, like the kill or something. I don't know. I mean, it's like a little bit confused how explain that, but in other words, is in the first 72 hours is the most important and crucial moments to do anything for looking at person, because if you pass this 72 hours, maybe the person could be killed or be murdered or be dead in something, or maybe they kill a person, but it's more easy to find the corpse of the person if they're past the time, because even the 72 hours first you find the corpse, and it's more easy to know who is person, why it's that, what is the reason because for died the person. And if pass more than 72 hours, it's more difficult, because obviously the corpse it's in about this composition, and it's so important to Mexico change that this law that need to pass 72 hours to declare that person who missing and make something. For me, it's a completely thing that I need to change about that. And I think that my all arguments about that case